Welcome to Happy Talks with Dr. Alice and Donovan. Dr. Alice Fong is a holistic naturopathic doctor and founder of Amor de Soi Wellness. And Donovan Jensen is a software engineer and founder of HowToHappy.com. Together, they're out to cause more happiness in the world.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Happy Talks. My name is Dr. Alice, and this is Donovan. And today I have a special guest, Shawn Buttner. He is a high-performance coach, a certified high-performance coach, helping professionals and entrepreneurs break free from burnout through holistically leveling up their lives. So please welcome Shawn. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Yes. Excellent. Yeah. So Shawn, why don't we start by you telling us a little about your story and how you decided to become a high performance coach, and what does that mean and what does that look like?
Okay. A little bit on me real quick. So I am a product of the tech industry. I'm sure Donovan and I could probably talk a lot outside of this on some of that stuff, but I actually started in technology as a hobby in high school, went to business school, got hired as a programmer for Walmart Corporation like 10, 15 years ago, was a web developer for there, left that because I burned out, started a business, that didn't work out, got hired at Apple. And then when I was at Apple, I started to burn out again, and I'm thinking, I should do the whole thing where like I become a manager and manage a team of engineers, and that'll be awesome, but I should probably have some extra skills for managing a team, because in my experience in tech, the best engineers are not the best managers.
Oh.
So you can't treat people like computers a lot of the time. Go figure. So,
really? Shocking.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to get certified in high performance, thinking I would just carry this into my tech career and further my career. Absolutely fell in love with the work. And so at like 33, I think I was 34, I'm like, this is what I want to be when I grow up. And so since then, been making slow moves to become a coach full time. I made that transition a year and a half ago. So that's that story. So you might be thinking, what the heck is a high performance coach, right? Mm-hmm. And so a certified high performance coach really just helps people transform different areas of their lives. And through the High Performance Institute, it's defined as consistently leveling up whatever part of your life you want. And there's a bunch of different subcategories without burning out, which is keeping your body healthy and not destroying relationships. So not being the successful, miserable person. If you've ever had that encounter in an organization, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So really, I just have discussions and help people find more clarity in their lives, like who they are, how they express themselves, how they manage their energy day to day, emotionally, physically, all that kind of stuff. Find more courage to speak out and really share their thoughts, or have that confidence to go into that meeting or have that tough conversation with their spouse. Productivity, which is focusing on the right things and then getting rid of distractions, and then just influence, which is building relationships and leadership. So, that's a lot, but it covers really all of that. Is to say, we're trying to align your personal life, your career, your wellness, and your health towards your goals so that you feel happy, you feel confident, and you feel present in your day.
Yeah, I love that. And it's very aligned with naturopathic medicine, and it's not just about like being symptom free or successful. It's really about being happy too, which is the whole theme of our show. And I like that you had mentioned that the distinction between being successful and miserable. I think that's important. And being successful and happy, there's a difference. And ideally, I think we want that, but we kind of think maybe we have to sacrifice performance or other aspects of our life, which to really reach the high success level that we want. And I like that you touched about confidence, and I think that's really important to look at and explore. So I'm curious, if you're coaching someone that's relatively successful, but they're miserable and they're lacking confidence or joy in their life, where would you point them in the right direction, or where would you get them started with, I guess?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And Of course, all these, it depends on the person.
Of course.
Through the high performance process, we take a look at how clear they are in their life. Like, if a lot of times, if you're successful and miserable, you might have the syndrome of like, I've been working for 3 years. How did I get here? You know, I did what I was supposed to do. I got that job after school. Maybe it wasn't what I really wanted to do. I was going to build up my resume. Now I have all this success. This is not where I thought I was going to be when I was, 3 years ago. So are you clear on where you want your life to go? That kind of like big question. Or like, if you could wave a magic wand, what would be the life that you'd want? And are you kind of there, right? And if you're like, I'm there and I'm still not happy, like that's one way we can go. But if you're like, I need to make some changes, that's where we can start working on building a plan and saying like, okay, if you were to make a move towards that clear vision you had for your life, naturally you're going to feel more engaged. Naturally, you're going to feel more confident chasing after that. Because sometimes too, like if you're drowning, we talk about burnout a lot. If you're like successful but buried, you don't have time to like reflect and say like, this could be different. This could be better for me, right? Yeah. So that would be some place to start. Something else that I tend to look at. So I've had a lot of folks this past year say, hey, I'm really stressed about, finding a job. I lost my job due to COVID, which is a huge thing. And it's like, that's not an easy thing. And it's not, in those cases, how do you feel more confident? It's how do you actually bring joy into your life every day? Like what habits are you doing that refill that cup? Because it's not about, it's all stressful and overwhelming, because it is. And you're not going to be able to change that. But you can, write some music. If you're a musician, you can, spend time with family and friends in the way that you can now to help fill your cup there, or whatever that is for you. Making sure that that's part of your daily routine has gotten a lot of people just feeling like a huge weight off of their shoulders, because it's like, I don't have to grind and struggle through this. I can find things to kind of fill my cup in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it sounds like a couple different pieces are coming together. So one piece that I heard is like having kind of a clear plan or strategy, and maybe you've ended up in a place that you didn't really expect or plan for, but having a plan moving forward can help get some confidence just because you have a target to shoot for. And then the other piece, it sounds like, is having a little bit more balance as opposed to, especially, the last year or so, just focusing on, wow, I have to knock this out. I have to get this done. I have to get this done. I don't know if I can do all of it. Finding ways to inject a little bit more happiness or joy or just general balance into your life. There's a third thing that came to mind that I wanted to ask you about, which is, what if, okay, I've got this target. Let's say I want to start a pizza shop, which I don't. But I want to start this pizza shop, and I'm just thinking, oh man, I don't feel confident enough to go for it. That's what I really want to do, but I think I'm going to fail. I think that's maybe another angle for confidence. I'd be curious what your thoughts are, kind of from that approach.
Yeah, that's a really great question again. And I think in that instance, exploring like, how could you test out running a pizza shop, right? Is it like, how many times do you make pizza for all your friends during the week? And do they love it or not? And if they love it, maybe, figure out how to do a food truck, or how can we take baby steps to work you up to that big thing? Or with my wife, she's a therapist. She works in a school. She's thinking about doing private practice. And it's daunting because she's like, how do I hang my shingle up as a therapist with all like the administrative paperwork and stuff? And so part of that process is just learning, like, how do you get a business license? What do we need to know that'll help you feel comfortable going forward? Or what type of support? Like, that's another thing. Like, do you know somebody else that has built a business or a pizza business in particular? Do you have no lawyers? Like, all that kind of stuff. And just kind of generating some ideas on what do we need to explore and how can we take some baby steps going forward?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, because what it sounds like is you take this bigger, more nebulous goal, this huge thing that may take months or years, and start breaking it down into pieces that are actually manageable. Because it sounds like, from what you're saying, the part that erodes your confidence is basically looking at this huge thing and going, I don't even know where to start. I don't know, like there's no way that I'm going to be able to get all this stuff done because I don't know what all this stuff is. So it sounds like it's about kind of filling in that path and looking at the individual cobblestones, and maybe you don't have the whole, every single detail laid out, but like you're saying, like, okay, what's the next 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever things I need to do that I know about, and then you can just keep building on it from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. It actually reminds me, I had a client last year too, on a different context, was having communication problems with his wife. Like they wanted to upgrade a house and expand the family. And like, he's like, I want to talk about this, but it's overwhelming. We both kind of get frustrated. And then I was like, okay, so what do? You functionally decompose the argument. Instead of one big argument of finances and family, it's like, if you were to have another kid, like what are the financial impacts? What needs to happen? And kind of just breaking it down into those different parts, just like you were saying. Like, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the idea of, you know, when you break it down into littler steps that you feel like you can actually achieve versus like some big unknown far out, that builds your confidence in being like, okay, that seems reasonable and doable. I can do this next step versus like the big project. I like the whole pizza example that you use, because I was like, what if I don't know anything about pizza and I need to like get some market feedback from my friends? And it's like, if you suck at pizza making, then you would want to know that before you open up a pizza shop and get better. And then maybe that means going to cooking school and learning more about the whole cooking process. And then I like the idea of, you know, starting with a food truck is less riskier than like buying a whole restaurant and not knowing anything about what you're doing. So I could see how like breaking it down builds confidence, when it seems like, you know, it's still a stretch. It's still stretching them outside of their comfort zone to some degree, but it's not like this far out mystery for people. What other ways would you suggest for people to like build their confidence besides just breaking it down into steps?
So 2 other things came to mind off the top of my head. First is, if you're strong in one area, how can you leverage it in a different area? Oh. So like I used to run marathons. And so in training for a marathon, you learn that you can do a lot of miles as long as you just think about the next 3 or the next 5 you have to do for training. Right. You know? And then it hurts, and then you don't, you know, run for a little bit, but you don't think about that too much. But so having figured out something, feeling confident as a runner, how can you apply that to managing a project? How can you apply that to, you know, figuring out like Zoom school for your kids? Like, can you make that thing? But if you feel confident in one area, how can you leverage it for a different area? So there's also this idea of the confidence-competence loop. I'm not sure if you heard of this. So this is kind of related, but the more competent you feel, the more confident you feel. So sometimes it's just, you just have to start and get some momentum, right? You know, it's going to be a hot mess. You're going to figure out as you go. And a lot of like one of the phrases that I use a lot in coaching is to honor the struggle, where like if you know, are bad at making pizza, to go back to that previous example, but you make 100 pizzas, you're going to get better at making pizza. Probably. And so when you actually get like a pizza shape and pizza flavors for the first time, and be like, okay, I can do more pizzas, or I can experiment, or, you know, you're more open to fail forward, you know, to make those good mistakes that we learn from. So, yeah. And then you get more competent, and then you get more confident. So it's this feedback loop that just helps build you up. So just get started.
All these pieces kind of come together for me, right? Or in my mind, I see it all as connected. And what I really like is, you know, once you get started, you start building instances of things that you have been successful at that you can piggyback on. And I'm just rewording what you said. It's the exact same as what you said. And the other piece that is nice is all of us have accomplished something that we're proud of to some degree, or feel some amount of confidence in. And if you can tap back into a time where you were building that skill or building that confidence, you can use that same sort of process right? Or that same sort of memory to go, okay, I'm not as good at X as I would like to be, but I've already achieved mastery at Y. What kind of process did I use back then to get to where I am now? So I really feel like that flushes out everything, right? It's all connected. It goes back to these little steps, having these little things to break down your goals into smaller pieces so that you can build up more confidence. And then over time, you'll be able to build out like an entire library of specific events related to the thing that you're trying to build confidence in, as well as other relatable instances that are not necessarily the same thing, but you went through this process. And I think the nice thing here is that I imagine everyone has gone through this process at some point. It's just a matter of like sitting down and actually thinking about the things where you built confidence previously.
Definitely, yeah. I would say to kind of stuck in there or sandwiched in there, speaking of like mindsets, one of the best pieces of advice I ever had in my tech career was my first manager, this guy, Max Miller, who said, it's okay if you make mistakes as long as you don't make the same mistake twice. And so the mindset there is really this learning mindset where, I think sometimes when we're not confident, we're afraid to take action or we get stuck in our heads overthinking it.
Yeah.
But we're also robbing ourselves of that feedback of, hey, I'm going to try this. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, it kind of worked. Maybe if I tweaked it this way. And that's another way. If in the rare instance, you're like, I have zero confidence, like, life was really strange and tough or whatever, didn't have that normal path, like make mistakes and learn from them. Like that it's not failure until you stop or until you're not getting the lesson that you should be the fifth time you've made a mistake. So
yeah, no, I think that's so important, and just a reminder of kind of some of the coaching that I've received over the years of understanding that it's not like if you don't achieve the thing that you set yourself out to achieve, like let's say I wanted to make 10K in a month and I only made 5K and I feel like bad because I didn't hit my goal or my target, but it's really not that I'm a failure. It's just a failure of performance and that I didn't do all the actions that maybe was necessary. And I just have to like reflect on, okay, this action, all these actions produce this result. Maybe if I doubled my actions, I could get like double the thing. So it's really not like taking it internally, but just looking at the failure of performance and actions versus, oh, this is who I am and I'll never amount to anything because I tried and I failed kind of a thing.
So I had a question around how you kind of think about or look at failure, or I guess perfectionism, as related to confidence, right? Because I imagine there are a lot of people who kind of get those two things mixed together. And while it sounds more optimal to just go, okay, you know what, I'm just going to go fail and figure it out. What do you think about like kind of some of the first steps around breaking these ideas? Because I think that erodes a lot of people's confidence as well.
You're definitely right. And the thing that I'm drawn to is I think people, at least in my experience, perfectionism is just another fancy word for fear. It's usually like, I'm afraid of putting this on and being vulnerable and people, yelling at me online, or I'm afraid of not living up to the expectation, or not being 100% like the best at everything. And, so it kind of comes down to diagnosing what that fear is. And I have a model for that I can share. We say there's basically 3 different types of fear. And if you can understand it, then you can, a lot of times people assume that, one little perfection is like, could be the end of their life. Like their nervous system activates and it's fight or flight and all that kind of stuff. So it can be really, really intense. But so the 3 different types of fear, or there's process fear, whereby say you're going to start a new YouTube channel, you've never done it. The act of doing the video, figuring out the technology is just going to be terrible. And so why even bother? Like, I can't figure it out. I'm not a technical person. I get that a lot, or I'm not good in front of the camera. So where do you focus on the process? Again, it goes back to that learning mindset. How can we experiment and just figure it out? Because what's the worst that could happen in that particular case? You don't have a YouTube show. You're not gonna, get eaten by the lion or some of the more physical things that activate fear.
Hope not.
So, yeah. It would be a really, really hostile work environment if they have lions waiting for you.
Right. You better get this show right or the lion will eat you. Yeah.
Classic management strategy.
Mhm.
Okay. The second thing is outcome fear, meaning that you're going to do the YouTube channel and you're not going to get the result that you want, or you're not going to feel as connected to achieving that.
Mhm.
And so, like, basically, like, the grass is greener on the other side. You're going to get there and be like, I also don't like this. And then that kind of fear, it's really important to be focused on, like, then you'll know. You don't want to have any regrets, essentially, right? So, again, you're kind of learning, but you're just, is that your thing or not?
Mhm.
And the third thing is loss fear. So, loss fear, opportunity cost, sometimes people call it. It's, if I do the new channel, I'm not going to be able to spend time with my kids or in exercise. If I start training for a marathon, I'm going to have to stop eating pizzas, tie it all together. So how do you get over loss fear? And it's just really just focus on what you're going to gain from the experience. So in YouTube channel, you might have your successful business. The pizza place, you might have a huge pizza empire spanning the world of your cool whatever pizzas, So, but each of those different fears, if you're a perfectionist, and usually you'll find that one or more of those kind of cover that perfectionist block. And so it's just doing the work, the reflection, and building the support around helping you move through those fears.
Yeah, that's great. I think that really provides a different angle than I've heard before, right? Where you can kind of get under the root of that perfectionism and find strategies tailored to what's actually causing that, as opposed to things I've heard in the past where it's just like, well, just get over it and do it, which, it'd be nice if everyone could aspire to that level of willpower and getting over their feelings. It's not necessarily a realistic route. So I think that's a lot more helpful.
Oh, good. Awesome.
Yeah, I love the breakdown of the fears, because fear obviously is a huge contributing factor in stopping people from going after the things that they want, and why that contributes to low confidence or why they don't go for it. And I really like the examples that you gave, because it's like, yeah, I was kind of like both me and Donovan have created YouTube channels, so we're right there with you, and we've both admitted in past episodes that it was a painful process, and there was fear. I used to hate being on camera, and I think like everyone has to go through that phase of just really sucking at the beginning of, I've said this before, where to create a 2-minute video would take me like 4 hours and 60 takes, because I was in that perfectionist. It's like, it's got to be good. I'll be in camera. People will judge. And it took something to like get out of like, yeah, so what? So what? I don't care. And it was just doing it repeatedly. We do this every week. And now it's more second nature, to the point where the fear just isn't there anymore. Yeah. Even though I don't even know what I'm saying sometimes. I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth, but I'm not scared. So I feel like that's a win in itself. Yeah.
Definitely. I'm with you on the turn on the camera and then, review later what actually happened. So
yeah. Definitely.
You guys have any tips for people on building confidence that maybe we haven't covered?
I can ramble for a minute. It is not necessarily that different from what we've covered, but I do find, or have found in my life, if I'm feeling especially low confidence, to look for things that aren't necessarily these bigger long-term goals that we've talked about, but smaller things that make me feel some sort of discomfort or some amount of low confidence. I've been in this realm of trying to improve myself for quite a few years, so I might have more tools to manage my emotions than most, but I go into it, something a little bit smaller, something a little bit outside of my general comfort zone, and just sit with that feeling and deal with it as I'm doing whatever the thing is. So I'm relatively introverted, and maybe just like striking up a conversation with someone at random, which in general is not a super appealing thing to me. But I found that, breaking away occasionally from some of these bigger projects, if I'm not making the progress I want, or I don't feel as confident as I would like, that helps, because then I can get one of these wins, but still in the realm of, oh, hey, this thing, I kind of thought I couldn't do it. I was kind of worried about how it was going to go. And again, like I said, I've done some work around managing some of the feelings part, right? So that it's not overwhelming. And I kind of expect, okay, some part of this is going to feel a little bit rough, but I also know that the payoff for this is positive in multiple ways. So it's still pretty similar to what we've talked about, but just a slight spin on it that happens to work for me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. For me, what comes to my mind is, I definitely resonate with everything that we've been talking about in this episode, but, I think about like the kind of like the reverse of, when I have too much confidence about something, it kind of makes me take a step back and be like, well, I don't want to be confident about everything. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not. So it's like, for me, because I wear many hats, I'm a stress and anxiety expert. I'm really freaking good at it. I have a bazillion years, so much experience. I'm super good. I've helped hundreds of people deal with it and be powerful in the face of it. And so it's just like, I could do that in my sleep. It's easy because I have so many tools. I know how to do it. I'm very confident about it. But I just started this second business last year that I had like, no, I was thinking about it for a while, and it just like the lack of confidence, because it was like to be a business coach for other naturopathic doctors. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm successful enough. I got to build more experience. It's just like, I don't have any credibility. I don't have like the testimonials yet. What are people going to do? How are people going to buy from me? Because it's like with my doctor business with stress and anxiety, I have like a ton of testimonials. I've got like people raving about me. But this other one that was just going to be starting up had like nothing. I was just starting from square one. And I had lack of confidence, but to help me kind of get over that, because I had a lot of self-doubt and a lot of limiting self-beliefs about myself and being able to do it. But kind of what got me out of that was realizing, okay, there's doctors right now are really struggling in their businesses, and they're trying to go virtual because of the pandemic. And I somehow magically figured it out because I invested in this business growth program. So I have a lot of knowledge to offer people. And yeah, so I just was like, yeah, I was straight about it. And I offered like this pilot business growth program for doctors and offered it like 50% off as part of the pilot. And yeah, I got 10 doctors signed up. So I was like, oh man. And so I was just like kind of scared and terrified. And I'm like, I guess I have to do this. So I guess this is happening. And I did. And then once I got through it and then I was able to get some testimonials, then it kind of helped me have the confidence and really feel better that I went for it, when before I was like, this could just be a shit show. I have no idea. But yeah, that's kind of my self-reflection of, when I'm too confident about something, I want us to take a step back and actually step into something that I'm not confident about, because that's where I grow and discover, and have that learning struggle that is everything in life. Yeah.
Well, I love that both of you brought up a time or the approach of finding those uncomfortable moments to really find your growth. I think that's a really important insight in itself, that I've also done in my life a bajillion times. And as a coach, that's what I'm aiming for, is to help get people comfortable with the uncomfortable so they can move forward. So, but I did want to, I saw that kind of thread, I thought to call it out.
Yeah. Cool.
So Shawn, I would like to pull our conversation a different thread, and ask about, as a high performance coach, are there common patterns that you see or things that stop people generally from high performance? Are there a couple buckets, and it's totally fine if it's, very, very personalized. But I'd just be curious if there are some things that you generally see.
That's a great question. And the things that I've seen with my clients tend to be 9 times out of 10, people know what they need to do and they're just not doing it. And sometimes, that accountability of just having someone that's fighting for that future that you laid out for yourself to be like, hey, you wanted to start that business. Like you said, you're going to do this, and this, and then you didn't do did something else come up? Did you discover a new feeling around it that we have to work through, or do I just have to bust on you for a little bit? But I'd say most times, folks, everyone knows what they need to do, but you need that social pull sometimes to get to that next level. On top of that, a lot of the work that I do too is just helping people be a little bit more disciplined and taking care of themselves. Are you drinking enough water? I can't stress how surprised. I think everyone thinks they drink way more water than they actually do. And if you're constantly feeling sluggish or slow,
drink my coffee. I'm yeah.
Total coffee. But so are you doing the basics of that? Are you sleep? Do you move your body? Get out there, go for a walk. Sun, rain today, here in Berkeley, whatever, is those sometimes, so it's a discipline thing is the kind of the bigger bucket on some of those basic things, and then operationalizing the things that, get you the results, right? So hey, when I am able to sit at my computer and, the door's closed, I don't have any interruptions, I could sit for an hour, I do 80% of my work. Okay, how do we get more of that? But helping people kind of unpack and reflect on those moments that they get the most performant in their health or career, building relationships. And then how do we get to repeat that? Which is, that's basically it. You guys have been through the program, pretty much all of it.
That makes a lot of sense to me. You kind of hone in on the things that are already working, and kind of double down, triple down on that, and then extract from your environment things that are slowing you down or that are slowing you down. And it also, I know that having, it's the same kind of thing, a significant other in my life often pushes me to do a bunch of things for myself that I normally wouldn't do, helps me get to bed on time, helps me do all kinds of things that I might not do otherwise. And obviously it's a slightly different role that you fill, but a good resource to have some sort of social accountability to help. I would imagine most people feel a little bit more like there are things that they need to get done because there's someone on the other end of it going, did you do it?
Yeah. And sometimes too, it's just a little bit of challenge. It's I've been doing this thing for 5 years and I'm comfortable, and it's how could you do it better? How could you do it quicker? How can you change it up to get into higher performance? So I think not a lot of people have that person in their life to and if you do, hold on to them. They're invaluable in your personal development. And I think to kind of tie it to the show that personal growth is happiness. When we feel like we're progressing, it's much tougher to feel restless or anxious or overwhelmed. You can feel those things, but if you have forward momentum, it'll carry you through. So find the challenge, people.
I love that idea of just pushing yourself to grow, because that's where the reward and the joys and confidence comes out of. Great. Well, Shawn, it's been a pleasure to have you on our show. Is there anything you would like to plug before we wrap up today?
I have my website, ShawnButtner.com. If you'd like to follow me, I have all my social there. I do a daily Start Your Day with a Coach show where I answer questions that people submit. So you can find me on my website. It's probably the easiest, with all the links and whatnot. So find me there, ShawnButtner.com.
Awesome. Yes, we'll put the link in the description so anyone check it out. see what he's up to and join him for that morning coaching. Might help get your day started off right. So thank you so much, Shawn, for being on our show.
Thanks, Donovan. Thanks, Alice.
Yes, great. And thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.
You can check out more content at howtohappy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the videos. We've also got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that you can check out. Reflect, take action, and enjoy life. See you next time.